This is London Weekend Television, broadcasting from our studios on the South Bank.
It's December 1973, and Yes topped the UK charts with Tales from Topographic Oceans. Despite the success, there was an unease within the Yes camp. For months now, rumours have been circulating that the band's keyboard virtuoso Rick Wakeman was planning another solo album and may leave the band for good. Rick didn't hide his dissatisfaction with Topographic Oceans, a sentiment that was echoed in most of the music papers at the time. And after playing the album only a handful of times, he told the band and management in private that he would quit once the Tales tour was over. This much used photo from the period seems to capture Rick's apathy, and one can almost imagine him planning his future solo career without Yes whilst he was on stage with them. A new journey, a new alternate tune. Rick's journey to the centre of the earth began when he discovered Jules Verne's novel as a schoolboy. He wanted it to become the first solo album that he recorded, presented in the narrated style of Sergei Prokofiev's Peter and the Wolf. This idea was initially shelved due to the cost of recording with an orchestra, but that all changed when he released Six Wives of Henry VIII instead. The Henry album was a huge success, and as prog rock's stock soared, it lavished Rick not only with a fleet of luxury cars, but also with the confidence and financial backing to return to his original plan of turning Verne's novel into a musical extravaganza. Since October 73, the press were reporting the science fiction epic as Rick's next concert, with a planned recording date of January. To help him bring his vision to life, Rick enlisted the London Symphony Orchestra conductor David Measham. A fan of rock music, Measham had previously worked on Neil Young's Harvest album, and he can be heard during its recording asking the Canadian if he liked Pink Floyd. Young replied that although he'd heard of them, he'd not actually heard the band yet. After Harvest, Measham's next venture was the orchestral version of The Who's Tommy, and it was here that Rick met him. Now, despite featuring prominently in the Tommy concert programme as performing, it's almost impossible to hear Rick's playing on this due to the dense orchestration, and one can't help thinking that he may have just turned up for the after-show party. Hoping to replicate Tommy's success, Rick's management suggested that Journey 2 should employ an all-star cast of musicians, but Rick felt that this would distract from the central theme of the record, and with Wakeman being such a modest man and not one for excess or grandiose expense, he instead recruited a small band that he had seen down his local pub, the Valiant Trooper in High Wycombe. It was during this period that Rick became a regular in this previously quiet country pub. He would arrive in his silver Rolls Royce on Sunday nights to join in with the band as they performed renditions of bawdy, sexually suggestive rugby songs. In researching this documentary, I spoke with a few regulars at this pub, one of whom could still recall Rick singing, "I've got a dog and its name is Rover, and when it shits all over." And it sounds great fun, and it's certainly a million miles from contemplating the endless caresses and the freedom of life everlasting. The pub band comprised of Ashley Holt and Gary Pickford Hopkins on vocals, Mike Egan on guitar, Roger Newell on bass, and Barney James on drums. They were soon to be named the English Rock Ensemble. Some of the band joined Rick in the pub's football team, along with Pete Stevens and Ian Waller, founders of the Wall Bass Company that was located nearby. Although Rick's newfound pub band were competent musicians and had played in fledgling bands before, they had never all performed together on stage at that point. This all left the management and record company increasingly nervous as the costs of the production started to mount. With almost 150 people needed for both the orchestra and choir, it was decided that the only practical way to record this music was a one-off live performance, as opposed to something in studio. But despite this money-saving exercise, the cost of this album was quoted at the time as being £30,000, with Rick later claiming it cost double this, which is well over £500,000 in today's money. This is all dwarfed, incidentally, by the money that Yes themselves spent recording Topographic Oceans, which was the equivalent to £1 million today, making Topographic the most expensive record ever made at that time. During the summer of '73, Rick read the Journey novel repeatedly until he had distilled it down into the words that would be used for the narration. He developed a basic demo and explained to Measham and arrangers Will Malone and Danny Beckerman where the orchestra should fit in. However, as late as 3 weeks before the show, with the orchestra fully booked, the musical arrangements had still not yet been finalised. Finally, on the 18th of January 1974, at the Royal Festival Hall on London's South Bank, the show was finally due to commence. As last-minute rehearsals began, Rick suffered sleepless nights and looked dreadful. He had a stomach ulcer and severe tooth nerve damage, requiring pain-killing injections shortly before he walked on stage. The scale of his ill health is illustrated in an Enemy review of the show, which seemed genuinely concerned for him, and this is the cynical, mocking Enemy here. It's not exactly a paper renowned for its compassion, but it reads almost as if they were watching the next rock fatality waiting to happen. Such was the weight of responsibility on Rick's shoulders at the time that at no point did he consider buying tickets for his parents to watch the show, and with it totally sold out, he resorted to buying them last minute from a ticket tout outside the venue. Drummer Barney James has claimed that both Lennon, McCartney and Ringo all attended this show. Now, considering that Lennon left England in 1971 never to return again, I find a gathering of this importance being unphotographed quite hard to believe. The show opened with some tracks from the Six Wives of Henry VIII album. However, conscious of the weighty, highbrow nature of the main act, Rick included some comedy numbers, helped along by a troupe of banjo players and the Black and White Minstrels, who improvised comedy ragtime music. Above the orchestra hung a huge projection screen showing stock footage of Buster Keaton and Stan and Ollie, and during Journey itself, a clip from the 1959 movie adaptation was shown. All of this footage was edited together, by the way, by Phil Howe, Steve Howe's brother. To top it all, Rick also included an orchestrated medley of familiar TV tunes, such as Opal Fruits, Made to Make Your Mouth Water. And for hands that do dishes feeling soft as your face, use Mild Green Very Liquid. and Mr. Sheen, who gets umpteen things clean. Personally though, I think that breaking up the flow of this grand spectacle by throwing 1970s adverts in is a bit of a cheap stunt. I mean, you'd never ever catch me doing anything like that.
Lemons, and in limes and strawberries, all the flavours you get in every packet of Opal fruits. They're so fruity, they make your mouth water.
Opal fruits made to make your mouth water.
Some nurses have softer hands than others.
Come and stroke Teddy with your soft hands.
Now hands that do dishes can feel soft as your face with mild green fairy.
Shine faster formula with MPE. More power to your elbow.
Mr. Sheen shines umpteen things clean.
It means that there is intelligent life on Earth.
For mash, get smash.
Our journey begins with a huge orchestral opening. Bold brass and sweeping strings and triumphant timpani drums combine to create a huge statement of intent, a broad and cinematic soundscape that evokes images of heroes setting off on an epic voyage. The story itself is set in 1863 and follows eccentric scientist Otto Lindenbrook, who discovers an old parchment that explains how the centre of the Earth could be reached by travelling through a volcano. Lindenbrook persuades his nephew Axel to accompany him on the quest. Wakeman adds a rousing choir with hints of Holst and Wagner and Tchaikovsky, and perfectly captures the Victorian spirit of adventure and an era that knew no bounds. To accompany us on our journey, we have the playing of Bruno Erminero, Il Mago delle Tastiere.
Horse by rail, by land, by sea, our journey starts into the crater of volcanic rock beware.
A softly delivered vocal from Gary Pickford Hopkins describes how the two set off with their guide to reach the mountainside, and using ropes, they carefully descend into the volcano shaft. To illustrate the subterranean world, Ashley Holt joins in and delivers one of prog rock's greatest choruses, a weighty barrage of words worthy of the mighty John Anderson himself. This epic lyric is taken almost directly from the book. Crystals of opaque quartz and studded limpet tears forming magic chandeliers lighting blistered galleries. Man, they really don't write lines like that anymore.
Crystals of opaque quartz and limpid tears, forming magic chandeliers, lighting blistered galleries.
We next hear our first narrated section.
The eastern route they had taken had come to a dead end. With 3 days' walk back to the fork to find Arne Saknussum's original route, they found their water rations were limited to 1 day.
Originally, the great Orson Welles was approached to narrate this story, as was actor Richard Harris, but neither were interested in recanting the tongue-twisting tales of Arne Saknussemm in the Silurian epoch. And so, Rick turned to actor David Hemmings, who was already known to him through Hemdale, the management company owned by Hemmings that looked after Yes.
After sleep, they continued down the other tunnel in their quest for water, and whilst searching on his own, Hans the guide heard the sound of water thundering behind a granite wall, and with a pickaxe attacked the wall so as to allow a stream of boiling water to enter and cool in their tunnel. Not only had they found life in the water, but they'd also found a flowing guide to the center of the earth.
Sincere and touching beauty to so much of this album, and what it does best that many rock classical hybrids from the era couldn't is it strikes the perfect balance between narration, orchestral passages, and now a funky prog rock groove as the English rock ensemble journey back to Sunday night in the old Valiant Arms pub. Side 2 continues with our explorers entering a forest of giant mushrooms, from which they make a raft so they can sail across the underground seas. But terror soon strikes when they encounter 2 giant and deadly inflatable cartoon dinosaurs. Operatic choir describes the horror as the travellers pray to be saved. When the show was taken on the road a year later, actor Terry Taplin acted as the voice narrator, and he does a fantastic job with a real melodramatic menace.
Cumulus clouds form heavily in the south, like huge wool packs heaped up in picturesque disorder. Under the influence of the breezes, they merge together, growing darker, forming a single menacing mass. The raft lay motionless on the sluggish, waveless sea, and in silence they waited for the storm.
Swirling, ghostly chorus evokes howling winds, and as the storm subsides, the explorers discover that they have been blown off course and now face a huge prehistoric forest with roaming mammoths, herded by a giant caveman. On finding their path blocked, the explorers use explosives to break the rock apart and open up a new passage. This explosion throws them into a volcanic shaft, and as they ride the rising lava on their raft, they head up towards the surface. To illustrate the foreboding upwards trajectory, Wakeman uses a well-known piece by Edvard Grieg, The Hall of the Mountain King. Its thumping, driving rhythm works well, however I kind of think it distracts slightly, and it feels like Rick may just have ran out of ideas of how to conclude this journey. Either that, or they were calling last orders in the festival hall bar. In the weeks following the show, there was a lot of post-production editing done, and from the sound of it, I suspect that quite a bit of the group playing was re-recorded. David Hemmings was brought back to re-record some of his vocal narration, and in an interview at the time, Rick references the fun that he and David had doing different accents, including a kind of high camp, Welsh and Cockney, which we will hear now.
Under the influence of the breezes, they merged together, growing darker. Under the influence of the breezes that only can come from Llanffair, Pwchinrichol, Gerichin, Robelich, Llanechilio, Gogogoch.
Under the influence of the breezes, they emerged together like, growing darker. Know what I mean?
The post-production delays led to the record company fearing the bootleg recordings would appear before the official release, and a telling article from February reveals that the album's release was being delayed to tie in with other plans. It states that they didn't know what these plans were. However, as we all know now, in June, a few weeks after the album's release, people finally got to find out what Rick's future plans were. Journey to the Centre of the Earth went to number 1 in the UK and number 3 in the US, and made the top 5 in most other European countries. It became a huge seller, and combined with Henry and King Arthur, it's generally thought that these 3 albums alone have sold more than the entire Yes back catalogue combined. To celebrate its launch, Rick performed at the Crystal Palace Bowl, an outdoor festival stage in South London.
Can I please ask everybody that's in the lake to come out, because otherwise you're going to spoil the second half of the show. So can you please all come out? If there's anybody else in the choir or the orchestra wandering around, can they please come backstage? It's just the choir. Let's get going.
There was a huge pond in front of the stage which fans would regularly swim across, a type of fun that's simply unimaginable today. In 1971, Pink Floyd filled the pond with a huge inflatable octopus. This event though turned into disaster when crowds of people climbed onto it, dislodging the air pipes, with the gas killing all of the lake's fish. The following year, Keith Moon rode across the lake, dressed as a pirate, serving tea and cake to the audience. Looking at photos of these festivals today, it creates an impression of a magical bygone time, with the bands and fans seemed equal in some way. The musicians never seemed unapproachable and aloof, and likewise the fans never seemed that starstruck. Everyone just seems to be there for the same reasons, and there's a notable and refreshing absence of warning signs and security guards telling people what to do. And it's in this spirit that Rick decided to unleash the two giant inflatable dinosaurs again, this time rising up from the water to fight each other during the battle section. The creatures were operated by the roadies, who released air through valves to make the dinos rock back and forwards. According to Rick, however, it looked more like they were humping each other than fighting, and true to form, at the end of their copulation, one of the dinos tired and sprung a leak, sending a jet of air out through its tail with a loud farting noise that could be heard over the music. Rick and his band had recently rehearsed this show to elated locals back at the Valiant Trooper pub, and it was whilst there he tripped over a beer crate, injuring his wrists in the process just before the show, needing morphine injections to get him onto the stage. Photos from this hot summer's night reveal a noticeably frail and tired looking Rick, who complained about having chest pains throughout the show, and bizarrely at one point actually jokes about nearly having a heart attack.
Gives me a heart attack. It's a big delay. Must somehow try and get the orchestra on.
In a bitter twist of fate, this is exactly what happened, and in the days immediately after the show, Rick was taken to hospital, only to be told that he had in fact suffered a series of cardiac arrests. In later years, Rick said that he resented being labelled simply as a rock musician. It was a frustration that many musicians from this era felt. Artists who tried not just to expand the limitations of rock, but escape them altogether. Rick questioned why, simply because he was born at a time when rock music was fashionable, then why should he be expected to remain within its boundaries and judged by its conventions? He took a huge financial gamble in making this album, but it was one that paid off. And that same spirit of risk-taking is what is at the heart of Jules Verne's novel. The explorers leave a familiar world behind, ignoring the warnings and accepting that mistakes are part of the journey. Likewise, Wakeman and a whole host of others from this era approached making music in the same way. And rather than choose the safest, most familiar or commercially viable route, they took the boldest and riskiest path, journeying without a map into the musical unknown.